My name is Maddi Terry. I'm a rising, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a rising senior, crazy, in the College of Nursing at UMass. But I also play a role, or I did play a role in residential life. I was a peer mentor last year, and I have been on various club teams, sports teams, and stuff throughout my time. But due to injury, I have kind of settled in with the outing club and some of the other outdoor clubs. I climb a lot. I do a lot of mindfulness and meditation and stuff. And I guess my role in the university, nature-wise, is an active member of the outing club. The outdoors have been my saving grace through three years now of college and my life. And I guess like recently I've been able to use a lot of the skills I've learned from nursing more than through outing club, but nursing, to kind of access the outdoors in a new way, because so much of my nursing experience has been using the resources you have, using the tools you have to go and conquer whatever your challenge is. So this summer, my challenge was living alone with an 89-year-old man on an isolated island. And I was thankfully surrounded by, more nature than I could have possibly used. Ridiculous amounts of nature. But when you feel so overwhelmed and you feel so, at least for me, I felt so stuck almost, because I physically was stuck. I couldn't leave. I had to remind myself, like, that idea of sitting in one spot and trying to be present in one spot can really take your mind away from everything else. In the 10 deep breaths. I'm not sure if it was you who I was talking about this with. No, maybe not. It was another administrative person, but we were talking about how 10 deep breaths in any situation can bring you back to where you are. So for me, that's been in nursing. They say before you give medication, before you do a big procedure, which for me right now is a small procedure, is like putting in a catheter or taking out an IV or something, but 10 deep breaths. So you can do that in nature constantly. And I had to do that this summer constantly, to be like, okay, I'm so frustrated with repeating myself over and over because this man can't hear that well. But if I take my deep breaths, I go for a walk, I can literally center myself, bringing myself back to where I am. It, to me, is like absolutely re-energizing. I can't recommend it enough. And I mean, I think partially because of the patho behind it, like your body needs the pathology behind it. Your body needs oxygen, and people forget that. They say, why is my PT person telling me to breathe? Why does the yoga person tell me to breathe into my buttocks? Like, what? Why is my doctor telling me to breathe through my shot or whatever? It's because your body, your cells need it. And that's literally bringing your body back to life. So yeah, that's been my biggest tool, my breath. Feels so cheesy saying that.
No, it's so true. And it becomes even more true when it gets proven to you by trying it, right? So
exactly.
I instantly got a back injury I've never had before when COVID started. And my PT person was like, you're not breathing. I'm like, you're right. We're sitting here in front of our computers like this. And I realize my computer's shaking, which is bad for the interview, but 10 breaths is epic. Like usually I've heard the 1 breath, and that can make a difference, but 10 breaths is a shift. Like, I'm seriously going to do this. And this is what I love about this advice is, number one, it's very specific. Like, we need concrete advice, people. Like, I don't want to hear philosophy, and it's grounded in the body. And I've been just saying this, like, this experience lives in the body. And here it is. I mean, you're like the best advertisement for integrated health that, boom, there we are. You just gave me this like 101 lecture I could have never asked for. What do you think? I guess there's going to be so few students on campus. You'll be one of them.
Yeah.
But, so when you're in the routine of campus life, what do you do? And then maybe some recommendations for students who are off in their off-campus place and or maybe even at home.
Yeah, that's a
These
great
are not
question.
all on an island in Maine.
Yeah, well, and I was just thinking about that. I wish well, I can still say it, but something that I think gets lost sometimes in the media around nature and the outdoors, and something that I've been really trying to, I'm sorry, excuse the trucks in the background also, and the railroad and everything else. But something that gets lost in the message sometimes is that the outdoors is wherever you are. So I'm physically where I am right now is next to a highway. There happens to be many beautiful wildflowers that I can't name any of because I have no memory for stuff like that. But I don't need a big state forest. People don't need to have a backyard. They can be in their apartment or their condo or their single family house or whatever else, their camp, their whatever, wherever they are, their dorm, to appreciate and kind of ground themselves back in their natural environment, through very, very small practices. And I think the really nice thing about the 10 deep breaths or the 3 deep breaths or whatever it is that you can do it silently. Some people don't want to be silent about it, but you can do it really subtly, and you can do it literally anywhere. I do it during exams. I do it when I'm frustrated with what a professor's saying. I do it when I'm falling asleep. I mean, no one can see. You're breathing regardless. You're just breathing deeper. You're it's just something your body's used to. So it doesn't have to be a big like, woo, I'm doing this crazy thing where I meditate for 2 hours a day and I'm changing all my habits.
I'm doing it
It's a
right
really
now.
small step. Yeah.
I am. I'm serious. It's like, oh, wait,
Yeah. Why not, right? And why not? And I think when people start to breathe more deeply, they just feel better. Their head feels better. But another thing, one of my best friends in nursing, she does it before every exam, and she's been doing it since the 3rd grade when she started MCAS, the Massachusetts state exam. She goes outside to any doorway she can find and takes 3 deep breaths and comes back in every single exam. And nobody else probably even knows or notices because it's so subtle. But that's one of the really cool things, because people on campus can do it, people off campus can do it, people in the city, people in the suburbs, rural areas. You don't need Wi-Fi, you don't need a big park. Something else that I would recommend for people who feel overwhelmed or don't know how to start with relaxation is something that my biggest mentor taught me. And she is a recovered drug addict, a recovered alcohol user. She has started her own veterans rehabilitation center. She cares for a very dynamic group of children, some of which are on, some of which aren't. And she has a lot going on in her life. And she told me when I had a lot going on in my life, this was when I was 18, find a spot in your life that brings you peace, comfort, whatever, familiarity. For me, at that point, it was next to a tree. For her, it's in front of her fireplace. And call it your sit spot. And ideally, you want it to be in front of a window, somewhere where you can see nature. And every day, if you can, or maybe you do it every couple days or once a week, you sit in your spot for 30 minutes and you just sit. Your whole point is sitting. It's not bringing your mind to calm. It's not anything else but sitting. And over time, she would incorporate different lessons. So one week she would say, okay, sit in your spot and see how many animals you can find, and sit in your spot and count how many colors of green, and sit in your spot. And it's a grounding exercise that I've seen therapists and doctors and medical professionals and health professionals and yogis use, where you bring your body back to the space. So maybe you say, count 5 things you see, or maybe it's say 10 people that you know that are funny, or name each one of your toes with a different color. It's something really physical and tangible. And that to me is so calming. And also, I sometimes I count it as my exercise for the day, this mental exercise. And you're done, and your brain just feels so different, because not only are you sitting and you're calming down your body, but usually your gaze is a lot farther away from your phone. So your phone is maybe a foot away, your gaze is 20 feet, 200 feet away. Everything, again, it's like breathing, it just resets. So that would be my second recommendation, is finding a sit spot.
Which is awesome. And I love the clarification that it is a no phone zone sit
Yes,
spot.
sorry, no phone zone. No phone zone.
And I love that we're not sitting with this big expectation of the sitting, right? It's just be. Just like there's so few opportunities for us to not be distracted and just be. And I have found myself literally grounding, like during the lunch break. I didn't intend to do it, but go outside and find myself laying on the grass.
Yeah,
And
laying
it's
down.
just like, I need to, and so I think if people have their own spots, this is just such sage advice. And I did an interview with another student yesterday or the day before, and you students have got it nailed. Like he had taken up archery as something to help him focus during COVID and like have a skill that you could improve and see tangible results. But all like, people talk about the mission of the university to improve academic performance. Like, you could learn how to use your planner, and that's a helpful skill. But if we taught every first year student this sit spot thing, like, boom, right?
Imagine seeing all these people just sitting, like looking around.
Yes, when you come to campus, we're going to get on that, because we could all sit in a socially distanced manner.
Yeah.
There's enough trees. Everybody could take their own tree.
Yeah, everyone could take their own tree. Exactly. And I have done this in so many different ways that can cater to people's needs. Another one is, like you said, lying down. And one of my favorite, I happened to work at a yoga studio in high school because it was a very convenient job. You just sit there at the desk and check people in. But I got free classes, so that's how I got into yoga. And the teacher, my favorite teacher, at the end of every class, when you do like the lay down sleep pose, Shavasana, which I call nap time, you lay down and he would have you clench every single muscle group. I don't know if you've done this before, but you start at your face, you clench every single one, and then he would do a body scan and he would say, if anything is still clenched, relax it. And just that awareness of the body doesn't happen anymore because of our phones and our classes and whatnot. And we're so busy and we have so much going on. So those very small practices, even before bed, I do it in bed sometimes.
So these are tremendous and scientifically validated practices, as you know, from nursing. So we're talking about the real deal here. You can go out and measure it, people.
So $10 per advice.
Yeah, right? You have a consulting business going right here, right now.
Here we are.
So like, as we wrap up, I guess I would also then wonder if you have some thoughts on sort of a call to adventure and what that does for us in our lives. I mean, maybe that involves telling us a story about one of your outdoor adventures, but these doable daily practices are so valuable right now. And is there some utility in a larger pilgrimage or journey? And do you have any thoughts on that? And by the way, before I get to, I was like, oh wait, I knew there was one other thing I wanted to comment on. The wisdom of people who are in recovery is so phenomenal. Like, these are my biggest teachers. We were just having a meeting this morning where everything is changing on a dime and we're all like losing our minds. And I said to one of the staff members who, is very out about their long-term recovery, I said, so what's step one? It's like admitting we are powerless. I'm like, let's start there. So anyway, to my previous question though.
So are you asking what's, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused on the question. Can you just rephrase it maybe in a different wording?
Sure. So you've been wisely talking about the very accessible things people can do in the moment that connect you personally with nature, and you recommend for other folks. I think they're great ideas. And I also think, or assume, or this might be an assumption, that you also have done some sort of outdoor excursions or journeys or trips. And I think there's something that happens in those adventures or those, I mean, like, I have in my own life sort of this call to want to go out on pilgrimage or go out on an adventure, because I know something's going to happen, stuff is, and that's, starting from being 7 and going to summer camp. So do you have that in your life, and how does that work now? Or what do you think the value? I mean, you're a walking billboard for the outing club, so go ahead and advertise.
Well, I think first and foremost, I grew up with incredible parents who were very outdoorsy, but definitely also let us take the lead in most of our adventures. So I didn't have that push from a parent to be like, okay, do this summer camp or do this thing, or I'm going to sign you up. I'm going to check to make sure you have all your stuff for college. I'm going to check your bags. Like, my parents they call us free range children. Like, everything we do, we have to kind of steer in our own direction. So I, like many other people, have a lot of support in some ways and then don't have some support in some other ways. And I think that my most notable kind of pilgrimage type journey to me was actually, it was a 1-day event, and I was working in the white, oh my God, I'm so tired. Appalachian Mountain Club White Mountain Huts, those 8 huts up there in the Whites in New Hampshire. And we had search and rescue as part of our job description. So we had to do these search and rescues for people who would get lost, or if they ran out of water and they were dehydrated. It's a big fancy name for usually small events, but we happened to have had a 5-day and night search and rescue for a man who went missing doing this thing called the Pemigewasset Loop, which is a 32-mile loop around the Pemi Range. I don't know if you're familiar, if you're nodding, so yes, the Pemigewasset Wilderness. And it's a pretty renowned loop. A lot of people may be more familiar with the Presidential Traverse or the Appalachian Trail. There's all these different loops and hikes and treks and whatever, A to Z things. And after having this extremely emotional connection to the mountains, only to then follow it up with an extremely emotional situation trying to look for this man who went missing on it, who we ended up finding. Well, we didn't find him, but someone found him. I really wanted to do this hike, and I had worked in the White Mountains that was my second year. I'd been in the outing club at UMass, but I still had this notion that I was not strong enough, which to this day challenges me. And I think it might be something to do with me being female. It might be something to do with my own personal lack of confidence in some ways. And I think people face this in different ways, but I've never been able to be one of those people that's like, yeah, I can do that. Like, let me just do it. Let me just try it. Like, I feel like I see all these people all the time who are like, yeah, I've never hiked a day in my life. I'm going to go do this 200-mile thing. I'm like, what? How do you do that? I just would doubt myself. So I was like, okay, this 32-mile loop, I'm going to do it. I only have from when I wake up to 5 o'clock to do it because I had work at 5. So I left at, I think it was 4 that morning. It might have been 5. No, it was 4:30. It was 4:30 that I left. And I had no expectations. I just wanted to finish. And I told them I might not make it to dinner, so I might need my like sick day. And I started hiking. And it was so terrible for the first 6 hours. It was absolutely disgusting. It was raining. It was windy. My legs hurt because I did not train for this thing. I mean, I'd been hiking, but I wasn't, out there every day, like getting in the miles. People talk about hiking as this beautiful thing, but then they forget that when you're getting bug bitten and you have so much weight on your back and it's raining and you're freezing and you don't have people with you, it's not so fun. And then I kept having these like flashbacks to searching for this missing man. So it was just emotional. And then it cleared up. I reached my halfway mark. I couldn't find my map in my bag because I'm sometimes very disorganized. And I didn't have a watch at that point because I'd lost it earlier in the summer, and I had my phone in my bag. And I remember just thinking in my head, I was like, okay, if I count the number of mountains I've gone over, I know these mountains pretty well. I can estimate that I'm at mile 12, so I'm not halfway yet. And I was doing some math and I figured I was probably a little bit behind schedule. So I started running. And you can imagine, it's probably like you coming back from Hurricane Island. I'm running in hiking boots, like 4-pound each hiking boots down this trail with ladders with my bag that has no straps. So I'm like holding it. My hair is down. It was like getting stuck. I have everything going on. And I just started laughing because it was so embarrassing. I fell. I got back up. I fell, I got back up, I ate an egg halfway down, like a hard-boiled egg with mac and cheese, and I remember someone passing me and being like, you're the smell, and I was like, haha, I get that all the time. And it was just comical because I had no idea what I was doing, and it was so much fun. And like, I realized this thing that all these people talk about is not really that hard. You're just walking. I mean, that's not it, but in my head, that was it. And I kept going. I was running for a bit because I love running. It was kind of impractical, but I took my shoes off for a bit and ran, and then I put them back on because I got a cut. And finally, I got to this home stretch, which is where this man got lost. And I'm happy to say that I had practiced my map and compass skills the night before, because I'd never done that before either. But I didn't get lost where he got lost, which was my goal. I did not want to get in his situation. And I climbed up this pretty massive ascent to the Bonds, which I don't know if you've done those before, but the ascent to the Bonds is just like this grueling 6 miles of winding uphill where you have these steep sections followed by pretty what you would think would be flat, but they're not steep, whatever. I get to the top, and it was the most beautiful thing in the world, with 2 loud, aggressive, obnoxious men at the top. And I was like, this is so ironic. I've just hiked all day, literally all day, and these 2 men are screaming at the top of my last ascent. And they're like, you wouldn't believe how far we've hiked. Do you know how many mountains we've done today? And they were just, you know, like being obnoxious. And I was like, oh yeah. And they're like, do you see that mountain? We did that and we did that. And I was like, yeah, do you see that entire thing? I just did that whole thing. And they were like, oh, but like over the past 3 days, right? And I chose my obnoxious side, and I was like, no, actually I just did in the past couple hours. And I mean, there's moments when you're graceful and there's moments when you're not. And that was not my most graceful moment. I was pretty proud of that. And then I remember just being so elated, because there's all these things when you're hiking for that long, or when you're alone for that long, whether it's mountain biking or walking or hiking or kayaking or canoeing or driving, that you kind of just like realize you do. And oh, there's 2 butterflies. I don't know if they're about to pass the camera. Oh, so beautiful. But I was coming down the ascent from that mountain, and then over North Twin and South Twin, and I just realized that a lot of my confidence, or my lack thereof, comes from a feeling of insecurity around my aggression. And I had this moment of realizing, like, I don't need to be so aggressive to be powerful and strong, and maybe that'll boost my confidence. So I was thinking, no one else needs to know about this beautiful thing I just did in order for it to be amazing. I don't need to tell the entire world I just did this for it to be amazing. And I was so proud of that. And then my knee blew out and I started crying. And it was just like, this whole thing was like, I felt like I was on one of those movies where they're like, the hero goes down and they come back up, and whatever, the hero's journey. And I finally rolled in through my hut door at like 4 p.m. or something. And my crew, my coworkers, were absolutely shocked that I was back, because it had been about, I think it was 11 hours and like 20 minutes or something. I don't remember, but it was something under 12 hours, which for a group of an all-female crew is very, very good. And I just remember feeling like kind of surprised that they were also surprised, and then just really proud, because not only had I done that for myself and to kind of cope with some of the trauma that from the past 5 days of this search and rescue, and, you know, years and years of not thinking I was good enough at things, but also my whole crew, who were actually injured, most of them couldn't do that, but they could say I did. And for them, we're like a family. It's like when your sibling or your parent does something amazing, you want to just talk to other people about it. And that was probably my most treasured little saga mission journey, because it's such a tangible thing for so many people. And I was able to say I did it too. Whereas something like the Appalachian Trail, so many people can't do. So out of nature finishing it, it's incredible. I feel like this I can relate to so many people on, because they did it too. And I feel really proud about that. Is it's not this crazy thing that I did. It's very tangible. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any huge takeaways. I just was like, there's so many moments of learning.
Are you
there.
kidding me? I mean, the takeaway is, in my mind, like, so it's funny. I just asked you just tell me a story about a journey or a pilgrimage or whatever. And you came out with this amazing story that highlights so many things. It's such a metaphor. You were vulnerable. It's an amazing physical feat. And, it inspires me. It helps show us what the value of that stuff is. And the value is not exactly to say that you did the penny loop. The value is that story you just told. So I think it's a great model for other students to take an adventure. And, it's applicable to everything. If I were you, I'd be thinking every time I'm up against something hard, I freaking did that other thing. I can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just amazing. And, it really reminds me, I just have to say thank you for that story, because I spend my days talking about labor relations and other such matters. And to really hear from a student, or any person, I guess, for that matter, just these inspiring stories that we're all on a hero's journey, right? And I'm not trying to wax too poetic about it, but we're all up against it. To some degree right now, I think your story is helpful because we're at a mile 12. Like, we are nowhere near the finish line of this whole thing.
No.
And like, how are we going to dig down and find peace and enjoy the view and deal with the obnoxious people and deal with the injuries and keep going? Like, and the part about not being afraid that you're strong enough, I think we've been trying to really drive at that message in all of our well-being program, is let's start talking about our strengths. It's so hard to do, but your story is a great inspiration to that. You don't know what you can do.
And I feel like during that journey, whenever you hear someone else talk about the journey, it's like, wow, they're so strong and heroic and all these things, but during it never feels like that. And we're not going to feel like that through this whole thing. It's not going to be like, oh, I learned 5 new skills and I feel more rested than I ever have and I'm so prepared for this semester. Like, that is not how we feel right now. But looking back, we're going to look back at ourselves and be like, wow, I did all of that.
Yeah, because right now it's raining and there are mosquitoes everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, there's this awesome reading by one of my yoga teachers that's like, it's always sort of 3 a.m. and dark and your map is falling apart. And it just reminded me of your story. Like, I can't find my map. I think that's just a perfect story to end on. Maybe I know it'll probably be uncertain what the outing club might be doing this semester, but we'll be sure when we produce this message for students that we put in some plug for that.
Thank you.
I think encouraging people to just do their daily practice. I'm going to go establish my sitting spot.
Yes.
This is tremendous. And sometime we'll have to get together and sit at socially distanced trees on campus. But is there anything else?
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. No,
well, I mean,
it's awesome.
I'm just so grateful that, I've gone through school with so many different, influences from professors and whatnot, faculty members, and I haven't met someone who's so passionate about the similar things that I am. So this is incredible for me to see, because it's, you're bringing together the social, the not social, I can't think of words right now, but the tangible bureaucratic things with the student success and the student education and the student social life and the student well-being. And that's something I really haven't seen yet. And I think we talked a little bit about with Professor Chandler, but I really feel like this is at a broader scale, which I am so excited to see roll out in different ways. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And the outing club and everything else. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a privilege to be able to be in a spot, to be able to try and broadcast things. But when it gets all up into those levels, it's important to kind of remind, I think, ourselves, like that literal grounding that you're talking about. It's exciting, and we have to just go back to what we value. So so many students are good inspiration for that. I think we can do amazing things. Like I see UMass being very fertile ground, with all the traditions that exist of like, what would it look like to really have a university based on the things that you just talked about? Like,
what would it? Yeah, I haven't thought about that one.
it would be radically
What would
different,
that?
but
Yeah.
awesome. All right,
It
that's
would
our
be
next
so different.
conversation.
Yes.
Next
Well,
second
thank you
semester.
again.